It is Tuesday, the 24th of February, 2026, and I was at the conference, the Anarchapulco, as everyone knows that watches my channel, whatever you call this, a place where I come to decompress and just share ideas. And my videos are very, very long, so I don't get a lot of viewers, and I understand that. But again, there are people that do look at these long-winded videos and they take certain things out of it, which can assist with getting information out there on better platforms. And so I am taking a look at possibly doing short clips on TikTok and stuff like that. But again, this is not the work that I want to be doing in the future. And so and there are much better people at it than myself, including Dan Dix and Mario for the North and Jasmine Lane and countless others. And so like my job used to be assisting with for example, the standing rapid deployment team courses for global affairs for the small teams that work at consulates or embassies all over the world, or the ones that respond to natural and man-made disasters. They link up with the people already in place and they assist with natural and man-made disasters. I had been doing that since 2016, first as one of the staff members of the role players, and then by 2018 I incorporated, and then I was the course coordinator, linking up and coordinating and doing practical scenarios in a full up military base, multiple different buildings, infrastructure there, a police precinct, friggin' hospitals, and airports, you name it. And, uh, and I've talked about this before, but when people respond to natural and man-made disasters, especially as part of the SRDTs, and I don't even know if they've done it in the last couple of years, and I don't think they're using a Canadian company if they are. But again, I would like to do those courses again. And because there's a lot of information that unfortunately the government and the experts that are hiring, it's bullshit, it's propaganda, and it's not even real, and it's getting people killed, and or it's delaying people getting assistance. And so Michelle Ferrari, I believe that's how you say her last name, but she was a member of parliament as part of the Conservatives, and she lost the last election, unfortunately. But she still is very public and vocal about things that are impacting Canadians on a regular basis. And so I do follow her channel. And she had mentioned a story about, I don't know when this was, but she was in a country and something significant happened there. I think maybe like an explosion or something like that. And she had been attempting to reach out to the Canadian consulate in that area and not able to get a hold of anyone. And again, this 9 to 5 needs to stop, especially if again you're now involved in a natural or man-made disaster, and Canadians are going to be trying to reach out all hours of the day and night. And so I've said this in previous videos, one of my biggest bones of contention was there would be a theoretical part and then a practical part. And during that, because I thought this was the most important scenario, I would choose myself to be the one, even though I was the course coordinator. And again, like it was just so friggin' busy, especially when courses were ongoing or on the go, because again, there was just so many things to coordinate. But I would, in the middle of the night, so anywhere between like, let's say midnight and like 4 a.m., I would go to the different areas where these candidates would be, manning the consulate areas, and myself and the staff I employed, people that were former special forces, former homicide detectives, still serving members of government, and people again newly retired, business owners, you name it, that were part of like assisting with the training. And so checked out and incredible and gave so much information. But anyways, the importance of manning your consulate area 24/7, even if it's just with a skeleton crew, which is usually what happens, you need to have people manning that CP, and it should be 2 people. And the amount of taxes Canadians are paying exactly for that type of service, like it just blows my mind how again this is still something that's not being done. And it's just unfortunate because even by the end of 2019, early 2020, this was something I was saying, and again getting in not arguments, but it was getting very heated because I was saying that you need to train as you fight. And it's very important that there was resistance, not with all, by the way. There were some very incredible, I say candidates, but these were high level, very professional, very skilled, very highly trained people that were selected to be part of these teams because they were the best that global affairs and other organizations had. And so it's not to take away from that, but the guys that were former military, like honestly, they were more the ones that got it, or former law enforcement, way more than anyone else. people that had desk jobs and stuff like that, they didn't think it was their job to man a CP. I keep on saying CP, but a consulate area 24/7 during a natural or man-made disaster. And so I would fill that role, and I would attempt to either contact either in person, or first I would start with the means. If they didn't answer, that I would go in person, and if they were sleeping, etc., I would be taking photos and videos just so they couldn't say that they weren't. And then I would go through a scenario, and then we would talk it through. I would do a debrief and after action review there on the spot, because as a facilitator or a role player, like that was your job. After any scenario, you had to debrief on the spot, AAR. And then anyway, I'm all over the place already, but I just need to calm down a little bit. That's why these are so long. But yeah, and people are trying to reach out to the consular services. I've given the address and contact information to people that I had a ways to communicate with from the conference, and then people like Dan Dix. I don't know if he's registered yet, but I've shared that on my social media, and obviously he doesn't follow me yet. But again, even when he was talking to Viva Fry yesterday, I don't think he had registered yet, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I've been trying to say this to you guys for days now, even like tagging the Anarchapulco, because like people are following that hashtag as well, that were again part of the conference, and that stayed in location for a few more days for another conference, or just to enjoy themselves. Like Dan was saying, he like the first day that he had free with his wife is the day that El Mencho was taken out. And where was it going with that? I don't know, but so I hope he registers, and I've given the email address to people as well, and yeah, so I just hope people are okay. And people I have reached out to, a few people I was concerned with that I talked to through the conference, I thought were incredible people. They are safe. They're home. They left on Friday evening as well, or Saturday, and so anyway, all over the place. I have a little bit of notes. Yeah, so at the Anarchapulco itself, my partner and I got there the Sunday. We left our home on Saturday, drove to Toronto, stayed overnight because we had an early morning flight on Sunday, and so we landed there. And that first night, we just went to the marina. It was so gorgeous, great weather. We saw pharmacies where they openly sell over the counter ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, uh, human growth hormone, HCG, anabolic steroids. And so I took a photo, and then Phil Heath, who incredible freaking legend bodybuilder, but like of course is like you see his photo like literally everywhere in Puerto Vallarta, wherever there's pharmacies, and so like that's a good deal. That's a good advertisement, and he's a really smart guy, and so I follow him, and he's very insightful. He has a lot of wisdom, um, and where was it going with that? Oh yeah, and he just lost his freaking dog. I don't know why you guys need to know that, but that's sad. Oh my goodness. Um, so yeah, I met a lot of incredible people, and had such fascinating conversations. And people that I have been talking to for the last few years, I finally got to see them in person, and it just felt like I've known these people for years. It was just so good to just see them in person, make assessments about other people to see if they were genuine, authentic or not, or maybe controlled opposition. The jury's still out on a few people, but also learned a lot because of in-person conversations that I had with people, that like questions I had. And so there was a lot of things that were confirmed for me. And then there were a few things where I was shocked, not surprised, but like it was just crazy information. Oh, very disappointing. But again, this is why like people shouldn't be idolizing false gods or anyone, because we're all human and we're all fallible, right? And so Jelly Roll, I think his name is. There were people that were like totally in love with him, thought he was like a good Christian, all of this stuff, and but I've shared information, so of others, with conversations that he's had about himself and his wife, and it doesn't sound very godlike or Christian-like. And so look at that stuff. I don't know if I highlighted it, but I did share it a few days ago. Yeah, and so on the main stage, you had people like Stellium 7, whose name is Mike Wilkerson, and he had an incredible presentation, and I'm sure that's one of the like the most watched from the whole conference. And he gave me a signed book, And I like this is my favorite gift from the whole from the whole conference. Just getting this book signed by Mike Wilkerson was honestly like the highlight of my trip. And he's so brilliant. And so we actually did get the chance in the VIP area to like sit down and just like talk about so many freaking interesting things. And yeah, he is so mind blowing. And then there's Steve Falconer as well. Oh my goodness, like a friggin' legend, Space Busters. And I've been following his content now for a little while. And then his freaking his briefing, his whatever you want to call it, when he spoke, it was just incredible. I wish he had like 5 times the length of time, but they were running short, and it was Friday afternoon. And the only reason why my partner and I even got to see it is because our flight was delayed a couple of hours. And so I'm like, oh my god, like, I definitely want to see this, and it didn't disappoint at all. And I highly recommend people take a look at his work because he doesn't just talk about like Space Busters stuff, which is really incredible, but he talks about the esoteric stuff. He exposes so many things regarding government, our history, advanced civilization, so many different things in such an incredible way. And he brings receipts, and yeah, and so I can't say enough good things about him. And so, who else? Dave Weiss, obviously, and and what was I going to say? And yeah, and he spoke as well. Him and Mike Wilkerson were speaking on the Shape of the Earth debate, and then there was Chris, and I don't remember what the woman's name was, but I'm sure that was widely viewed as well. That's probably one of the more popular ones. But I just didn't understand why there was an argument. And again, I'm not saying anything about the conference. It was really interesting and authentic, and but I'm just wondering why potato shape Earth made it on that stage, because it's kind of like a disrespect to people that are fighting, or not fighting, but debating the shape of the Earth being one way or another. And so I don't know. It is what it is. But sometimes I just wish I was on that stage to answer some of these questions. And but again, I mean, Mike Wilkerson and Dave Weiss did an incredible job, and so I would have not done any better, right? I did have USB sticks that I saved though, where I had a lot of notes where to be prepared for like any question that could be thrown out, and how to respond to it. And so anyway, so I was ready. But anyway, it is what it is. You know, at the end of the day, both sides had strong arguments, and it's up to people doing their own research to make up your own decisions, right? We're just providing data and given new information, willing to change my mind on anything, right? But it has to be fact based. It has to be measurable, observable, repeatable. Okay, I'm all over the place, but I wanted to do like a bit of an AAR, which is an after action report or review on the event. And at the conference itself, the people that were like the staff that were working there, they were so incredible. The service was incredible. Everyone was so friendly. The food was amazing. It was very healthy, and so it wasn't burgers and fries or anything like that. It was like delicious meals. There were a lot of fish options, chicken, roasted vegetables, and healthy carbs, and salads with like so many different toppings you can have for salads. It was amazing. And again, I can't stress enough, like everyone was so nice. The volunteers as well. I'll only say that there was only one volunteer, and I don't know who she was, but I would say, was quite rude. Uh, Not with me, but with like, I mean, tried to be, but like with people during certain periods of the event, that I didn't think were warranted. It was very unnecessary, and so I didn't care, obviously. But it was just like, you didn't, like, respectfully speaking, like, you didn't pay to be here, and there are people that have spent like thousands and thousands of dollars, and so if we're just asking questions. Very respectfully regarding having access to the VIP, just the lounge area, because there was a couple of days where there were several hours where we didn't have access to it, even though like that was the area that we were allocated in order to have establish contacts with people, have one-on-one conversations, get food or drink, go to the bathroom, all of those things. And so, and so again, just like unnecessary, but it's fine because again, it's probably stressful to try to coordinate and manage like such a big event. And so, and again, the volunteers again, such incredible people that I met as well, salt of the earth people. So I don't want that to seem like it's a slam at all. One person should not ruin the reputation of an entire group, and again, you never know what that person's going through at that moment. So there's obviously forgiveness, but again, I'm doing an honest AAR. Um, but yeah, yeah, so many incredible volunteers, and then people coming in from Canada that I didn't even know at all, that were really big in their involvement in the Freedom Convoy, and even what's going on with the separation of with the attempt of the separation of Alberta. And so yeah, met new people, and then gave them a few names of people that they could follow or communicate with, even in Alberta. And then even one woman, for example, I won't say her name, but I'm like, do you know this guy, so and so? And then she's like, no, never heard of him. And then I showed her who it was, and they had like 52 mutual friends. It's like small world. It's such a small world. And anyway, where was I going with that? And so yeah, that was good. All the speakers were so incredible, and bringing new perspectives to things. And even if I didn't necessarily agree with everything that was said, it was still like they were still really interesting. Gave a lot of things to think about, and they have action plans for people, or like they want to provide assistance to people in various ways to get them ready for the next, you know, Hegelian dialectic, whether it be the power outages or the civil war, or anyway, a bunch of stuff. And yeah, we're just going to go with that. So, and again, this is not to slag crypto, because I think there is a place for it, obviously, but you know, I think that physical money, fiat money, and having like materials that you can barter with, like gold, silver, but even food, etc., like during times of duress, or like these are what matter more. And I'm just curious, like, and again, if there's a way that people can navigate that. But what if there are like massive power outages and blackouts, etc.? Like I'm ignorant on this, so like please let me know how you can access those funds. And they probably do have an answer, but and again, it's because I haven't looked too much into it. I do have Bitcoin and Ether, like not a lot, but anyway, where is it going with that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so I had talked with people that are attempting to sue the Canadian government in various capacities, and so we had some pretty good conversations, and we exchanged contact information. And if I can be of service to help as a witness or whatever, I have been open to doing that, and I've been saying that publicly now for years. And I am part of the Methcon mass tort, again, that keeps on getting delayed to be seen in the courts, even though it's been on the go since like 2017. 2018 at the latest. Um, but anyway, and then people I know that are still in Canada that are part of lawsuits or trying to be, but like they've had their cases dismissed, their appeals dismissed, etc., or they're waiting on sentencing before they can consider courses of action on what to do next, whether it be an appeal or something else. And so, yeah. So where's it going with that? Yeah, yeah. So we left Friday again evening at that point. So we landed back in Canada in Toronto. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And then Sunday, uh, everything unfolded. That was pretty wild. And I'm glad people are safe. There are people, I've already talked about that their Uber driver got shot in the face, like right in front of them, right, and their stuff burned, including their passports. And this is stuff like during these SRDTs, like that's the stuff um, that is trained into the material, and the hostile environment awareness training piece as well. It's how to do that pre-deployment checklist before you go to any country, whether you're visiting as in an official capacity or not. And I recommend even civilians like take these courses as well, to varying capacities, obviously. But like the pre-deployment checklist, like like actions on arrival, things like that, action at the objective, and then different courses of actions and plans of actions. Like there's so many things that people should be doing that they're not doing when they travel to different countries, right? And so small things that people can do to to help themselves or their family. just by taking these courses. I'm all over the place. Yeah, the cartels, blocking roads, bulldozing roads, burning vehicles, all of that stuff. And then you have Americans that are they're against ICE, and they were happy. I don't know if people recall, but they were celebrating and bragging that cartel were saying that they were going against ICE in the USA. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, ICE, what are you going to do against the cartel?" Like, why is that even coming out of people's mouths? Like, you know how insane that is? Do people not know what cartels do? Do people not know, like, the cartel members, what they do and what they're involved in? It's disgusting. And it just frustrates me when I hear this shit. And yeah, there are dirty cops and there are dirty law, military, et cetera, et cetera. But there are so many incredible men and women in various different uniforms that you cannot dismiss their, like the sacrifice, the heroism, like the stuff that they deal with on a regular basis to keep their communities safe. And it's just frustrating when people are against ICE, when they're trying to get out rapists and murderers and people that are like dealing drugs to children. And we have like these like record breaking overdoses in Canada and the US with fentanyl and these other drugs. Like, what is wrong with people? What is wrong with people that is like that they're celebrating the cartels? And so I didn't hear too much about people celebrating the cartels in Mexico, but people are blaming Trump. And when for over a year, he's been talking about, again, like going after the cartels, especially the main ringleaders, because again, there's a lot of Americans that are being uh, sacrificed again, and like while things are not being done, and cartels should not be running society. Okay, like gang members, mafia, et cetera, the pedophile elite should not be running any government or any society. I mean, and there are people within the government, unfortunately, like I shared in that video, a law enforcement officer in Mexico that was listening to everything that El Mencho had to say. And we need braver cops. And yeah, your life is on the line, absolutely, when you go against criminals. But respectfully speaking, like, I've deployed to war, etc., and I risk my life as well. Like, that's part of the job. And if you can't do it, then you shouldn't be paid by taxpayers for that service. And again, it's not to take away, but it's just true. Um, I'm all over the place. So talk to people that want to sue the government. I talk to people that like expose the government, like myself. And again, if someone that still wants to trust in people, but God, it's getting harder. Okay. How long did I take? Oh my God, almost 23 minutes rambling on about the conference. Um, I did want to get into something that I put together regarding electromagnetism, because I've tried to explain this, and but without putting it on paper. It's actually better to write a book, because then you actually learn more about the topic when you try to put a book together. And uh, and so things that were in my brain that I wasn't able to articulate properly, um, I highly recommend people, again, take notes. So I'm just going to shut things down for a second, because I think I might have closed it, because I sent it to a couple of people. And again, this is just a rough draft here. This, again, I'm going to reiterate, is something that I put together last night with help from multiple AI platforms. So it's not perfect. And it was frustrating because there were still things being said in the dissertation style that I wanted that were completely incorrect. So I had to go through every freaking paragraph, every single sentence, and say, that's not what I want to say. That's not what, is the reality anyway, and change this, change this. And so there was a lot of back and forth. And so they make it really hard to put together a finished product. So again, I'm just throwing this out there into the ether, and and then if people want to, again, reach out, Don189 at protonmail.com, and like talk through this stuff with me, I am more than welcome to accept that those conversations, because I want this to be something that is correct. or closest to the truth that it can possibly be. So, anyways, principles of magnetic structuring. So, in this model, in the model that I'm trying to portray, the core or the center serves as the primary magnetic source of the system, establishing the field geometry throughout the bounded domain. Magnetic field lines are not treated as physical strands, but as mapping of magnetic direction and relative strength. Where the field line density is greater, the magnetic field is stronger, and where the field changes rapidly in space, in this contained space, strong field gradients, the magnetic influence on matter is greatest. And so Ken Wheeler has provided great videos on toroidal fields, magnetic fields, over a ferrocell, et cetera, et cetera. And if you can visualize that, I will share a picture, actually. Maybe I should have pushed this up. But again, I was up until after midnight in my office trying to put this together. Okay, I just want to give you an image of a toroidal field. Sorry. Anyway, I'll just Google it. Okay. There we go. I took the lights out of my room, like those white lights, because it always freaking blinds me. And yeah, so I don't care about the lighting. So examples here, Ken Wheeler. These are some examples of magnetic fields, and these are the field lines that that this dissertation is going to be discussing, and how the magnetic field strength is stronger where the magnetic field lines are. These are visual representations of that. And so there's other ones here that you can see for magnetic fields. This is a ring magnet, I believe, that he had put in one of his videos. A magnet on its side, kind of looks like owl eyes. Anyway, so magnetic fields. Okay. This is analogous to the behavior observed when iron fillings or ferrofluid are placed above a magnet. The magnetic source defines the geometry, while the medium reveals the zones of strongest magnetic organization. I like that word. The visible pattern does not show the field itself as a material object. Rather, it shows how matter responds to the field, especially in regions of high field strength and high field gradient. Applied to the Earth system, this principle means that magnetic structuring is strongest near the central source and along preferred field geometries, and weaker towards the outer threshold of the domain. In lower neutral layers, this structuring acts indirectly through charged carriers and polarized matter. In ionized layers, it acts directly by organizing charged particle motion into stable pathways, currents, and boundary structures. Order out of chaos. Magnetism being order, electricity being chaos. But anyways, this dissertation formalizes the toroidal electromagnetic field, TEF. It moves beyond classical Newtonian mechanics and Einsteinian curvature, positing that the cosmos is a self-exciting, stationary, magneto-hydrodynamic system. Say that fast 3 times. The system is governed by the dielectric field, the magnetic flux, and the complex interplay of their cross products. So dynamics of kinetic containment via a superconducting monopole analog stator, or stator. Abstract. So the TEF model, the toroidal electromagnetic field model, defines the cosmos as a coherent electromagnetic pressure vessel. At its center lies a superconducting monopole analog stator, providing the primary flux that organizes all matter. By replacing the gravity variable with dielectric compression and Lorentzian centripetal force, this analysis explains atmospheric stratification and the maintenance of a pressurized fluid state, without a physical enclosure, but I'll get to that as well with the plasma. The magnetic refraction limit, the radiation belts, serves as the high gradient boundary satisfying the second law of thermodynamics. The prime mover, the central monopole analog stator, which again, people will say it's something else, but where's your proof? Excuse me. The center of the TEP is not a molten core, possibly, but a stationary high coercivity magnetic node. And again, I'm open to other ideas here. The source of universal flux. This central stator behaves as a superconducting magnetic source. It emits a coherent toroidal flux that defines the geometric limit of this known system or cosmos. It provides the z-axis or z-axis vector from which all radial and azimuthal forces originate. I hope that makes sense to people. Field coherence and density. Flux density is at its maximum at the stator. So where the magnet at the center, or whatever you want to call it, core of the Earth is, strongest there. As the field expands radially across the conductive bed, it follows a decay until it reaches the inversion point, the equator, where the field lines are perfectly horizontal. So you know how like toroidal fields are magnetic fields, there's the flat plane of inertia, those field lines, but then there's also the curved ones. So that's what I think that Einstein and like this is what they mean by the curvature of space-time. Like they're literally describing magnetic fields. Anyway, I think. And then time only being experienced because of the sun, possibly. All right. Yeah, okay, so the bed, the primary negative ground. The solid strata beneath the fluids function as the universal cathode. Telluric current and conductivity. The floor bed, or the ocean bed, I mean, and the ground. But like again, it's more so at the bed. So the bed is a high conductivity surface that facilitates the return of the global. I don't like that word, so I changed it afterwards. But again, these are all just notes that I took from AI when it kind of was similar to what I was trying to explain. And so like not everything's going to be perfect, but of the electrical circuit that is within this cosmos. Its negative potential provides the sink for the 300,000 volt world capacitor, cosmos capacitor. The hydrosphere, the liquid MHD interface. The saltwater oceans are the working electrolyte of the system. Ionic displacement. As the magnetic strata provides the field, the magnetic field, the movement of the tides induces current. And again, it's giving me, when I copied it over, it didn't give me the right scientific equations here. And so I'm not even going to try to figure out what it's trying to say here. I'll do that once I put this together in an official capacity. Thermal coupling. This liquid layer acts as a heat sink and a magnetic buffer, stabilizing the temperature of the internal environment. So we're talking about the oceans, etc. The fluid stack, dielectric fractionation. Atmospheric stratification is the result of dielectric permittivity and magnetic susceptibility. Paramagnetic sorting. Oxygen, being paramagnetic, is pulled towards the higher flux density near the bed. This creates the life-sustaining air density at the lowest altitudes. Now it's going from the ocean to ground level, where the shoreline meets the earth, the ground, where we live. There's still a negative charge. And okay, so anyways, being paramagnetic is pulled towards the higher flux density near the bed. Okay, the dielectric squeeze. The 150 volt vertical gradient acts as a universal press. Every molecule is polarized and shoved towards the negative bed. This downward mechanical pressure is the true identity of what the uninitiated call weight. And so even with that, I don't like the way that's defined, because there's a press, there's a pull, there's a push. And so it does explain it further on in here. The kinetic interface, the magnetic mirror. The boundary of our pressurized world is not a physical lid, but a magnetic gradient reflection. Sure. Laboratory confinement analog. Just as CERN and fusion reactors, the tokanks, it's freaking tokanks. It's weird. I'm not going to try anymore. Anyway, use magnetic pinches to prevent plasma from touching the physical walls. The TEF uses the radiation belts as a high energy pinch. The reflection force, this is the formula. As escaping gas ions move towards the outer limits, the converging magnetic lines force a velocity reversal, bounce back. Pressure containment. The high velocity alpha particles trapped in this mirror act as a kinetic shield, kicking neutral gas molecules back towards the bed, or just downward. The luminaries, electromagnetic induction brushes. Yeah. The moon, maybe not the sun. The sun and moon are moving induction nodes traveling within the toroidal shells. The solar anode and thermal pumping. The sun is a high frequency, high charge plasma node. As it travels its velocity through the magnetic field, it generates the Lorentz force that keeps it levitated. It thins the local dielectric medium via heat, creating a low pressure wake that drives the cosmos's wind systems, like our hurricanes, our cyclones. The lunar induction brush. The moon acts as a magnetic stirrer. Its proximity to the conductive bed induces eddy currents in the salt water. This is not a pulling of water, but a magnetic displacement that drives the tides, called Lenz's law. Multi-directional pressure equilibrium. Pressure is a closed loop tensor. Inward, pushed by the magnetic reflection limit. Downward, pushed by the dielectric squeeze. Upward, pushed by the displacement buoyancy of denser paramagnetic gases. When things heat up, they expand. They get lighter, they go up. The solar track and magnetic inflection. The sun moves between 23.4 degrees north and south latitude because of the pulsing of the stator. Seasonal flux expansion, as it goes like inward and outward. Anyways, as the central stator pulses, the toroidal shells expand. The sun, locked to a specific flux density, is pushed outward to the southern ring pass and pulled inward to the northern pass. The 23.4 degree barrier. This latitude is that magnetic cusp. I say it's the limit of that the sun travels. Beyond this, the field lines curve too, sharply towards the mirror, making it energetically impossible for the sun to remain on its tracks if it went beyond that. Mass as magnetic resistance, depending on what the mass is. In the TEF, we discard mass as a fundamental property. Instead, we define it as resistance to field displacement. An object with high mass simply has a high cross-section for interaction with the dielectric and magnetic fields. Relative density is the sorting of matter based on its permittivity to volume ratio. I don't know if it gets in here, but just like when you put water, oil, and mercury in a glass and you shake it, it's like it's order out of chaos. Like once you stop it and you stop the spin, they sort themselves out based on their relative density and the temperature as well. Because if it was frozen, then it'd be a different story. Anyways, I'm on all these freaking tangents already. The deep sea, the maximum pressure node. The deep hydrosphere is where the field forces are most concentrated. It is crushed between the atmospheric stack above and the MHD induction from the central stator below. I might name these things differently. This is the highest potential energy region in the entire system. So the self-sustaining machine, this cosmos is not a void. It is a plenum organized by a toroidal electromagnetic field. The stator provides the flux, the bed provides the ground, the mirror provides the containment, the luminaries provide the motion. By applying the math of Lenz, Lorentz, and Maxwell, we find a perfectly contained, pressurized, and stratified system that requires no gravity, no ball, geometry, and no physical lid. It is a masterpiece of electromagnetic engineering. Asking me about these other things. Let's see. Okay, so I want to see the prime mover, the central monopole analog stator. So we're saying the same thing here. Okay, so the heart of the cosmos is not a gravitational center of mass, but a point source magnetic singularity. The neodymium analog stator, I don't know about neodymium, but the center houses a stationary, high coercivity magnetic stator. This is the anchor of the toroid. Unlike a standard dipole, it functions as a monopole analog because the flux lines emerge vertically in a concentrated column before radiating outward to form the domed toroidal shells. And so I've talked about monopoles before, and people trying to experiment with this in laboratories. And so flux density and radial decay. As flux lines move away from the stator, the magnetic field strength follows a specific gradient. This is not a vacuum, it is a plenum where the density of the ether, what we're calling the dielectric medium, is governed by the proximity to the stator. The near field, extreme flux density, organizing matter into the central pillars. The far field, parallel horizontal flux lines that define the habitable plane where we exist. The universal cathode, the negative bed. The ground is the foundation of the cosmos circuit. The conductive strata. The bed is a vast semiconductive plate that acts as the system ground, zero potential. It collects the downward flux of ions from the upper shells. It is the solid interface that provides the mechanical reaction force against the dielectric squeeze. The hydrosphere, the saltwater battery. The oceans are not just water, they are a high-density ionic electrolyte. And so MHD induction, as the magnetic field from the stator passes through the moving salt water, a current is induced. The salt buffer, the salinity provides the conductivity necessary to maintain the Earth ionosphere capacitor. So the 300,000 volt squeeze, I don't know about that term, but I'm just going to go with it. The space we inhabit is the dielectric gap of a coaxial capacitor. So again, anyway, the vertical potential gradient, an electric field of approximately 150 volts per meter, I want to say that is, exists between the positive upper mirror and the negative bed. This is the dielectric squeeze, molecular clamping. Every molecule in the air, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, helium, carbon, etc., is polarized by this field. The field exerts a downward force on these dipoles, pushing and pulling. Redefining weight. Weight is the measurement of this electrostatic. Okay, yeah, this is what I wanted to change. Yeah, and so because there's different ways. It's not just downward. It's up. There's other directions. Talks about it before. This is what I mean. It's like so back and forth that I had to go with these AI platforms because they have really good sentences and examples broken down, but then they don't come to the solution that makes sense. They throw a wrench in it. Okay, so the fluid stack, dielectric fractionation, I think it's called, atmospheric stratification, the sorting of matter based on mass to charge equivalence, paramagnetic sorting, oxygen. Okay, so paramagnetic, in the presence of the stator's magnetic field, oxygen is physically drawn towards the highest flux density near the ground and the center. This is why the densest, most breathable air is at the bottom of the stack, what we're calling the stack. Okay, so diamagnetic displacement, helium, hydrogen. Gases like helium are diamagnetic. They are repelled by the magnetic flux and wedged upward by the denser oxygen molecules. They rise until they hit the magnetic reflection limit. The kinetic barrier, the magnetic mirror. This is the lidless containment system that CERN and fusion reactors used to handle plasma. It breaks it down just a little bit more. So the Lorentz containment. The radiation belts are the high gradient boundary. As gas ions attempt to expand towards the unknown exterior, they encounter converging magnetic flux lines. Okay, so the reflection, the Lorentz force converts the particle's linear motion into a spiral. At a certain point, the mirror point, the particle is physically reflected back toward the bed. Satisfying the second law. The second law of thermodynamics states gas must expand to fill its container. In the TAF, the magnetic mirror is the container. It is a kinetic wall of high energy alpha particles. that kicks neutral molecules back, maintaining the 4.7 psi pressure that we experience at the bottom, at ground level. The luminaries, induction brushes, we already talked about that. Let's see here. Okay, the multi-directional pressure tensor. Okay, pressure in the TEF is a balanced state of tension. The inward component generated at the magnetic reflection limit, it pushes inward to prevent atmospheric dissipation. The downward component generated by the dielectric squeeze. The upward component generated by thermal expansion and buoyant displacement. And at the bed interface, these three vectors achieve equilibrium that we experience. Okay, so mass as field resistance. Mass is a placeholder term for an object's cross-section of field interaction. A heavy object has a high magnetic susceptibility, oh my goodness, or a strong Coulomb attraction to the bed. It does not fall. It is displaced by the field until it reaches its neutral equilibrium, its 0 point. The deep sea, the maximum potential node. The deep hydrosphere is the anvil. Here, the MHD induction from the stator and the hydrostatic pressure from the stack are at their peak. This region contains the highest electrical potential energy in the cosmos. The outer unknown beyond the mirror, what they're calling the mirror, I call it the magnetic boundary of the system of the cosmos. We do not define the exterior as a vacuum. It is simply the region beyond the magnetic confinement limit. Outside the mirror, the ether is no longer organized into the high-density toroidal shells that sustain physical matter. Again, we'll never know because I don't think we can leave. Laboratory proof and scaling. This model is the only one that scales perfectly from the lab to the cosmos. Tokamaks prove magnetic containment of pressure. MHD generation proves moving fluids generate fields. Electrostatic precipitators prove electric fields move mass. And then I don't know why I didn't bring it in about the plasma being used in these experiments as well. Okay, so the cosmos is anyway. We live within a high density flux of a superconducting engine. I kind of like that. All right. It's like I didn't really like that too much, so again I just kept on going to try to readjust things, fix things, take some terminology out that I didn't like. Okay, so the heart of the cosmos is not a gravitational center of mass, but a point source magnetic singularity. I already said that. Saying the same things here. Just want to see if there's anything new. Yeah, it talks about sorting. Yeah, so the multi-directional pressure, I really wanted to stress that. So it's not 9.8 meters per second squared in a downward acceleration. This is what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that there are so many different variables at play, and but it's again within an electromagnetic cosmos. And I want to get more into temperature as well, the cooling and heating effects within the cosmos, and how they are also impacted and manipulated by electromagnetism, and the distance away from the heat sources. Okay, so field resistance. No, same stuff. Okay. Okay, so magnetic bottles prove that flux gradients can reflect and contain matter. MHD generation proves that moving conductive fluids generate fields. Electrostatic precipitation proves that electric fields move mass. Electric fields move mass. Magnetic fields move mass. Beyond these points, yeah. And so the Lorentz force transitions from a centering force to a mirroring force, creating the jet streams as a byproduct of this magnetic transition. Yeah, so currents and even jet streams, these are all based on like the the movements of the luminaries and how they interact with the magnet. Yeah, so the sun's travel through the plenum creates a localized drop in dielectric density. According to Bernoulli's principle, this causes the surrounding higher pressure air to rush toward the sun, creating the prevailing winds and the moisture pump. I don't know. Okay. So, what is a stator? In electromagnetic engineering, a stator is the stationary part of a rotary system. Unlike the rotor, which moves, the stator provides the fixed magnetic environment or tracks through which current flows to produce motion. So, I'm going to put some kind of an annex and a description of some of the words that people might not know. And, anyways, the cosmos as a stationary motor is the frame of the universe engine. It does not rotate physically, instead, its magnetic flux rotates and pulses. This makes the cosmos a solid state electromagnetic machine. I don't know, I'm open to this being a simulation. The stationary source, the stator anchors the entire toroidal field. Field velocity, while the stator is fixed, the field lines possess a virtual velocity. This is what sweeps the luminary sun and moon along their circular paths. I don't really like how that's being explained. Like I want to pretty that up a little bit because I don't entirely agree with it, but most of it I do. Yeah. So, okay, let's see here. To understand why the sun stays aloft, we must look at the specific inductive capacity of the air. The ether as non-Newtonian fluid. The plenum, the space between the stator and the mirror, is not empty, like the container, like the limits or the boundaries of the magnetic fields. It is a high-pressure dielectric medium. The Meissner effect, the sun acting as a superconducting plasma node, floats on the magnetic field lines. It is physically repelled from the denser regions of the field, maintaining its altitude through diamagnetic levitation. I want to send this possibly to Austin Whitsitt, but I can't send this over X, and that's the only place that we've ever communicated. And we were going to do a podcast together, but he didn't get back to me on it. I had to change the date because something came up where like I had to leave, and anyway, oh well. Okay, so this is something that I wanted to elaborate more on: the alpha particle crust. Okay, so the most significant misinformation in modern science is that gas can exist next to a vacuum without a container. The TEF solves this with kinetic confinement. The alpha particle crust at the magnetic reflection limit, the field is so strong that it traps a crust of high energy alpha particles. The ping pong effect. Neutral nitrogen molecules fly upward at 500 meters per second. They strike the magnetic mirror of alpha particles and are knocked back down. Pressure maintenance. This constant kinetic bombardment from the ceiling is what maintains the 14.7 psi at the ground level. Without the magnetic reflection limit, our atmosphere would evaporate instantly. All right. Anyway, that's what I think. Anyway, so the mirror. I don't like the term the mirror. Like, the boundary of the magnetic lines, fields. Okay, what else do we? In electrical engineering, the stator is a stationary component of an induction motor. Okay, it is high coercivity neodymium analog node that anchors the z-axis of the entire toroidal fields. Again, I don't know. I just think it's a good explanation. It projects, it provides the fixed magnetic tracks that guide the luminaries. It defines the magnetic north, acting as the primary source of the flux that blossoms outward to form the toroidal shells. The saltwater cooling and amplification loop. The stator does not sit in a vacuum. It is deeply embedded within the hydrosphere, the electrolyte buffer, acting as a magneto-hydrodynamic heat sink. I don't know. I don't know if I like that. Field amplification: as ions circulate around the stator, they create their own local magnetic field via the right-hand rule. This wraps the primary flux, amplifying the stator's output and preventing the core from degaussing. Okay, I don't want to get too redundant. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention a little bit about light and sound. Okay, so light and sound are not particles traveling through a vacuum. They are perturbations of the electromagnetic field. I don't know, particles make waves. So again, I don't even like that completely. Light as transverse coherent vibration. Light is the etheric vibration of the dielectric field. The medium, the plenum, is under high pressure. Light is a wave in this pressurized dielectric fluid. Yeah, the ether. That was removed from science books. I don't even know why. I mean, I do know why, but refraction, changes in light speed are actually changes in the dielectric permittivity of the air. Near the stator, where the flux is denser, light bends more sharply. Again, I don't even necessarily agree with that because you need a change in medium. And yeah, it's good enough for now. Sound is a longitudinal pressure pulse. Sound, the mechanical cross product of the electric field. Okay. When you create a sound, you are physically displacing the polarized molecules. I do agree with that. Yeah, obviously. Okay, so because these molecules are held in the dielectric squeeze, they behave like a tightly wound spring. Sound is the vibration of that spring. Okay, so the habitable zone is the gap between two plates. Redefining weight as dielectric tension. Okay, but again, even this being an electrostatic environment, you need to, like, it only operates within a magnetic field. I hope that makes sense. The magnetic reflection limit is the positive plate. This is where I say positive and negative a lot. The bed is the negative plate. Every object, including humans, is a dielectric body caught in the middle. The field squeezes us towards the ground. I don't like that. Give me some suggestions. Just kidding. Whoever's actually listening to this, well done. This is probably boring for most people in the world. Okay, so the kinetic barrier. When air molecules try to expand outwards, they hit this wall and kick back down. Okay, so yeah, just more of a breakdown of the sun and moon, how it possibly operates within this cosmos. All right, I think that's it for now. And that was like 20 pages, but like a lot of redundancy in it. And I put together other pieces of work that I want to also involve in that, but I don't want this to be too long. And so, yeah, that's my explanation of this electromagnetic reality. And I'm not suicidal. I've been hearing lately, again, I don't know if it's because I'm talking about this stuff, but professors, like plasma physics, nuclear physics, like all of these things, like they end up, like once they do really well, they end up, with accidents. And so, but I do want to share this information possibly with people that are in academia, and see if we can just come up with like a better explanation. And again, Austin, I think, would be perfect for that. And he can definitely make it seem a little bit more like make sense. And yeah, on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.